Okay, hello and welcome back to another episode of the CAYACast. It is the first episode we're recording in 2023. You may not recognize this venue because we're not in the old studio anymore. And I'm joined today by the cast and company of Baked Shakespeare. First episode of the year in a new space, new people. We're very, very excited about the year. And if you can't see her in the mirror, I'm joined by Kyra as well behind the camera.
Hi. I try to see myself in the mirror, but
it's okay, there we go. As regular visitors and watchers of the show will know, this is far from a conventional setup. But we're trying new things. It's 2023. Actually, fuck all that new year, let's do intro. I feel like me trying to do an intro on this one, usually I don't really anyways, and my favorite question to start off with is when you guys, either as a group or as a company or as an actor, are introduced on stage at a show, in a flyer, what is the one thing that's always missing from who you are?
The one thing that's always missing?
Yeah, that like people don't encapsulate in an intro.
Interesting question. I think a lot of people always think, okay, there's a bit of misunderstanding because they go, what do we do? Okay, we are all smoking weed on stage and doing Shakespeare. It's not actually like that. The audience will only choose 2 people to smoke. And so what people don't realize a lot of the time is that we really focus on the Shakespeare, and we love Shakespeare, and we're a Shakespeare company. And the weed is used as a crutch to get audiences involved, and it's really fun. But I think a lot of people, like when I speak about the show, they're like, oh, so how does it work with everybody smoking weed on stage? And I just wish that that's the one thing that they could know is like, we don't all actually. It's only 2 people chosen by the audience.
Yeah, if I can add on that, am I projecting nothing to them?
I'm just going to move my
Get the mic on.
Cool. Oh, microphone. Cool. So I think also a lot of people think that we're going to be rehearsing stoned, and we don't. Like as a director, if an actor rocks up stoned, I'm not going to let them act until they're sober. So we take it really seriously, and I think often people think that we're like disrespecting Shakespeare and fucking with Shakespeare, but we aren't. Like we fucking love it, and I want people to know that.
I told you guys about this, but there was one moment where I actually had to defend our company's honor against someone who was like, how could you do that? That's so disrespectful to Shakespeare. Why would you glorify drug use like that? It was so intense, and I had to be like, we're all professionally trained actors. Yeah. We take our work seriously, and we love what we do, and we love analyzing text. We always spent so long breaking down meaning and really doing the work. So of course, exactly. And I think of Shakespeare, yeah. And you know, it's a comedy, and it would have been raucous back in the day, and I think Shakespeare would have loved it if he saw it today. So that's my opinion.
Fun fact about Shakespeare, they found a pipe in his garden. So Shakespeare did in fact smoke weed.
So, Baked Shakespeare, for those that don't know, I think we quite nicely nailed all the common misconceptions, which is great. It's, as everyone has explained, it's Shakespeare performed, where 2 of the actors had up to 5 points in the show, as far as I know.
Yeah, 5 times.
Maybe required by the audience. My mic lost. Fantastic. This is even better. Up to 5 times, the 2 actors who are selected by the audience have to take a bong hit, and hilarity and confusion ensues. Where did that come from first? And also, just because we didn't do it at the beginning, I'm trying to debate whether we should introduce everyone quickly one time. Yeah, let's just quickly do a round of run-throughs, and then start, how this motley crew came together and where the idea started from. But we'll first do a little left to right. If we can pass the back mic over here. There we go. Okay, introduce yourself to the camera.
Hi.
Who are you and what do you do?
Hi, I'm Juliet. I'm a writer and director. I direct Baked Shakespeare, and I also run our socials. I got in directing the second show. This is my second time directing it. Yeah.
Cool. Good. I don't know what Mike's working
Yo,
on.
what's up? My name is Henu. I'm a young actor. This is my second Baked Shakespeare.
Yes, sir.
And this one, in As You Like It, I play Jacques Melancholy.
Cool.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I am one of the newest members of Baked Shakespeare. I play Celia, and that's about it. I'm also an actress.
Pass the mic to Max quickly.
Max, you gotta get in there, bro.
Introduce yourself.
It's not the same without Max.
What's up? I'm Max, and I play the two Dukes, Duke Fredericks and Duke Senior. And I gotta go to work now. I'm sorry.
You're a working guy. We love it. I'm Erin, and I'm playing Audrey. This is my second Baked Shakespeare as well, so very, very excited to be here.
Hi, my name is Tamo, and I am a young professional actor, and I play the role of Orlando.
Okay, yeah.
My name is Laura. I play the role of Rosalind and Ganymede.
What's good? My name's Jake. I am the runner of Baked Shakespeare Company. I'm the producer of the show, and I'm playing Touchstone and Adam in this production.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is James, and I am playing the villain. Can I even say this? Is that a spoiler? Yeah, and I'm playing the villain Oliver.
It's fine. It's fine. For people to find out that it's a spoiler, they'll have to come watch the show.
Exactly.
So either way, you're never gonna know.
Just read the play.
No, shh. They got to come watch the show. That's the
Read
point.
a book.
Jake,
Yeah.
how did the story come about?
Okay, so Baked Shakespeare came about, it's like the whole thing about artists stealing art. So I was in New York and I watched a show called Drunk Shakespeare. So I can't take any credit for being this, like, whatever you want to call it, but I stole the idea from Drunk Shakespeare. I just didn't
Do you know what
think-
that is? Honesty. And there's not enough of it in the creative industry.
However, I will say that I didn't think that alcohol was useful from a creative standpoint in South Africa. And so I thought, like, what is super peaceful? What's super fun loving? What do I love? I like weed. So, Baked Shakespeare. It's basically the exact same thing as Drunk Shakespeare, but we do it with weed.
And when was that? That was
2017. So I'd been sitting on the idea for a while.
okay.
Yeah, and then we started the company with, it was my friends basically from Drama Campus at UCT, and we all got together, and I was like, you guys, I know I sound crazy, but let's do this fucking show. And they were like, all right, we're gonna try, we'll see what happens, and it turned out to be a pretty good success at Olympia Cafe, and we've been going strong since then.
You've performed in a number of a large variety of spaces in Cape Town and Stellenbosch, a number of which have all played different parts in as spaces in the fabric of the Cape Town creative scene. Over the years, what has been your experience moving through those different spaces in terms of how, open and receptive people are becoming towards using spaces and making spaces more 420 friendly, and maybe spaces that conventionally aren't always, but how is navigating that conversation worked out for you guys? And I'm sure there's some stories as well.
I will start by saying
there were some snickers as I was asking that question.
No, I think it really is on brand for us because especially at the time that Baked Shakespeare started, everything's coming out of COVID. No theaters were open. Theater was basically dead in Cape Town and South Africa. So for Baked Shakespeare to kind of start in impromptu theater spaces and bringing in a younger demographic of between 18 and 30-year-old people, we really started marking a new idea of what theater can be and how spaces can be used for modern theater, and also about who comes to watch. And because of that, I'm sure some of the actors can speak to it, but playing in all these kind of different spaces really also makes it fresh for us and changes the show for us. And once you have the show dialed, I've learned you can do it anywhere and new things will happen, and it's awesome.
I think the one thing that I was quite surprised by with every venue that we actually approached was that they were fine with it actually happening. I mean, just in a bakery, getting baked in a bakery, and they allowed us to actually just smoke weed in there. Here at the Granddaddy upstairs in this outdoor space in Stellenbosch, in McGregor, like all of these different spaces allowing us to actually smoke weed when it's such a, well, not really a controversial thing anymore, but yeah, it kind of is still. I was always surprised that them just being okay with it actually happening, but then seeing them getting to see the amounts of people that it's drawing in, the crowds that it's drawing in, the amount of joy that it's actually sparking in people, the conversation that's starting. I think we're doing something great.
Yeah. Truly, and like, it's also, I think it's quite interesting how the weed is such a pull for so many people, but when people do come to watch the show, and we've got a lot of feedback that people love the show itself, regardless of the weed that we're smoking as well. So it's obviously hitting home for a lot of people.
Just to jump onto that, my dad was like super supportive of me joining the show, but he didn't know that it was going to turn into what it was, and that we were really going to deliver something impressive and something with very talented people. So my dad was so surprised that we managed to pull that out of the bag.
Like that being said, though, we have had some things with the police before. I mean, we're on stage, so we actually don't know when stuff is happening and like the police showing up. But I think Juliet can maybe
Story time.
All right. So we've had 2 issues with police. They were both in our last run. And so what you have to know for the context of the story is that I'm the one who packs the bongs. I sit by the lighting board and I pack the bongs and I give them to the actors.
Appreciate your technical people, guys.
She sometimes kills us, though.
So both times that this has happened, it has actually been noise complaints. It has not been the weed, it has been noise complaints. So we were at the Granddaddy in Long Street, and keep in mind this is in Long Street, and we get a noise complaint for the show because the audience is cheering so loudly because they're having so much fun on Long Street. And I have to run downstairs because there are 2 policemen there, and the whole time I have to be like, I don't want to freak out the actors, so I just sort of leave the bong sitting there by the trailer that they're exiting from, and I'm like, I hope they'll figure it out. I think I went to Henry and I was like, hey, can you maybe pack this?
I was so nervous because I was like, I don't know how to pack these bongs, and our cast mommy is not there. I was so nervous halfway through the show.
Great timing. Nailed it. I mean, I think it's part of why I wanted to have the conversation with you guys, because I think the cannabis industry is becoming more commonplace, and people are kind of fairly open-minded to it, but not aware of all of the different applications and ways that it can just be a normal, a more normalized part of life. And I think the way that you guys are doing it in terms of it's a really fun aspect to the show that makes it different, that I think, as you said, has all the benefits as well of bringing in a much younger audience to appreciating theatre in unconventional spaces, which I think makes theatre all the more accessible, which I think is super, super important, and what theatre was always supposed to be. And I think, that alone, but also just showing people that, hey, guys, these guys are smoking weed and it's okay, and they're even managing to put on a really good production of a show, and it's just going, listen, relax, let's observe this in its natural environment and see how it plays out, which I think is important. It's creating spaces for that. But that being said, a business in the cannabis and creative industry combined, in performance in cannabis, doesn't put one in normally a particularly stable or it's with the cannabis side playing in a lot of gray areas, and as we all know, the performance and entertainment industry has its own host of challenges in building a creative business, because I think that's a really important part of the conversation as well. What is your kind of strategy going forward into the next couple of years in terms of how to grow the business itself and turn it into a sustainable, self-perpetuating, growth-oriented business?
Yeah, so things are already happening here. So I think it's the concept that really speaks for itself because, well, the business model that now we've created, so we've done the shows in Cape Town. And the shows, we collected all the data and we figured everything out and we realized, cool, let's create this as a business. From registering it as a business, we were able to license the concept. So now we've done shows in Johannesburg, partnered with the culture, and we've also had investors buy in shares, and we're soon to be in UK by August. So the company is basically modeled on licensing. So people can purchase a license worldwide, and then the way that we generate income is through royalties. We get 10% from each ticket sold.
Okay, I mean, and I think that's very cool as a concept to dive into for, South African and local creators to look at in terms of ways to monetize their creativity, which I think is becoming the preeminent question of, or what we're trying to do and trying to share, because I think we've got this creative industry in Cape Town where there's so much talent and there's so many people doing such fun, interesting things like this, which is such a fun way of taking, some of the highest and most revered, but also much older, creative works and bringing them into a whole different dynamic. With the show going potentially overseas and around the world, how much creative control are you guys going to retain? What's that going to look like? Because obviously licensing something like this is a creative thing like this is complex, and
it's really interesting because you just see how things change. So when we did the Joburg production, we realized that we could help get the cast together, we could help get the team together, but in the end, in terms of their marketing, where they do their shows, how they actually do their rehearsals, we got no control of. The only thing that we can guarantee is that they follow the concept, because that's what they purchase. So the only control that we can create is making clear guidelines to, okay, we get 10%, the audience have to smoke 5 bongs, they have to scream.
The audience.
I mean, tell her what you must. So it's all in the concept, just making those guidelines clear. However, things change. So Julia and I were kind of discussing how the UK people, they want to sort of make it more. They want to do the shows more often, in which case they want to do it as a dinner experience. And I'm cool with that. So what they're doing is they're going to do each course of their meal is CBD or THC infused food, and that correlates with what is happening with the show. And so they do these dinner meals for say corporates or all different kinds of audiences. And I think that just goes to show how we start with this core thing that's maybe pretty grungy for the Cape Town scene. But when you take it to UK, maybe other people want to try access it, and then you find different markets, different demographics, kind of playing with it in their own way, and I'm cool with that.
Can I jump on?
Yeah.
Also, I think because we were chatting through this, and we were the Cape Town show and the Cape Town cast is always going to be the core. We're going to be here and it's going to be the core. But if things grow and develop, then things grow and develop. It's you can have an off-Broadway script can always be performed once it's been on Broadway. Not that I'm saying we're Broadway.
No, Clayton, say your shit. Say it with your chest.
I mean, drunk Shakespeare got there. Why can't we?
But also I think it's something that's very important here as well, and I think the rest of the world is realizing it, is that very often theatre can't just be theatre. And this is coming from someone who does a lot of other shows and a lot of other work in theatre. We will set up markets, we will set up sponsors, we will set up events. Tomorrow night we're having an adult games night. We have to fund ourselves, and we have to provide a space for as many people as possible to use our platform. So our costume is being sponsored by Eat Your Greens, local Cape Town fashion. Our jewelry is being sponsored by Moon City.
Thank you, sponsors.
Thank you, sponsors. So it's also about offering platforms to as many artists as we can, because we're all struggling artists and we don't want people to struggle.
I'm so glad it got brought back to that. If the rest of my team were here, they would be laughing their asses off at me because I'm about to go into that whole spiel of just how important it is and how excited it makes me about the future for our industry here in Cape Town, and why I'm so glad you were like, no, the Cape Town team is going to always be the Broadway of it, is because actually, no, but like, like that's really important, and we need more platforms like you guys who are also saying, you know, listen, we've all been here, we understand it's difficult, but you know, the value and the growth comes in supporting one another and having other brands like Eat Your Greens, like Moon City, who are also, you know, also small brands who also are, you know, building their thing, and it's going on stage and saying, actually everything about what we're doing here is local and it's fantastic, and that's the point. You know, we need to have more spaces where it's it's about giving a hand up and helping one another out and working together to develop our industry here, because that's how we get to put things all over the world and share things with the world, is by first spending the time and the effort and the energy on developing our, you know, the people that we run in circles with in any case. So I'm so glad that that's also a part of your guys' ethic, is also working with other small brands and different spaces, and just celebrating what we've got to offer here.
And like none of this would have been possible, like to be going into our third run now, like none of it would be possible if it wasn't for like the people who keep coming back and forth to our shows. Like in our last run, I swear, like a bunch of people came like 3 times, and I'm like, bro, you come again, like that's amazing, and you brought your friends, sick, and like I can name drop a bunch of people, and I'm like so grateful for all the people that always come to support us, and it's really that Cape Town crowd that keeps us going, and it's
And like people need to understand how much it means, and how, like, actually, fuck that, it's not about how much it means to the actors, and it's like, go watch local productions, because the talent in the city and the quality of those productions is world class in various different aspects and in different ways, but you don't need to be looking elsewhere for your entertainment. You do not need to be looking at Hollywood-centric shit. You do not, like, we all laugh about Broadway, and all respect to Broadway as it is due, blah, blah, blah. But, like, actually, it's time now to start saying we can access comparable quality, or often better in, you know, one way or another, entertainment in our own backyard. And those people who do go to these shows regularly and are in these spaces regularly just because they love it and they want to support and bring their friends, you homies are fucking invaluable. Because like, bring your friends and like have fun doing cool shit here, you know, and take pride in that, and take pride in the fact that you're just watching people from your hometown, you know, do world-class shit. Kyra, is everything alles alright? Do you have any questions? I've hijacked your mic. I'm very sorry, but. Okay. No,
I was hoping to hop on, and I hope I'm not sounding redundant here, but a lot of us as actors and as cast members, we talk about it a lot, about actors or artists supporting other artists locally. And oftentimes I find that when you have creative kind of opportunity, there's a kind of exclusiveness. You don't want to kind of share because you're scared that there's a competition. It's quite a dog-eat-dog world in the creative industry. We all know we go to castings and auditions and whatever. But if actors and artists don't support other actors and artists, no one else is going to support us. And like, once again, we're just a huge shout out to The Outlaw, the space that we're on today. Like Liam and Kim are absolutely amazing, and like they are doing incredible things. We are rehearsing here, they're doing great shows, and it's so exciting as young actors and young performers to come into new young creative spaces and being to like dig our teeth into it and kind of just uplifting each other and becoming a family with each other and supporting each other and pushing each other. And I hope all artists and creators in Cape Town can really kind of hop onto this wagon, because we have this huge amount of talent and it's
great
just
wealth.
And I was saying in the car, Juliet and I were like chatting deeply about things in the car as we do, but we were saying that like collaboration makes the best art as well. Making something that is kind of applicable to larger groups of people, it's amazing. So why would you want to not have that? It's incredible.
Yeah, just to expand on that, I must say that being a part of this team is the most supported I've felt in my career ever. Like, you guys get it, what we all go through it together, and it feels like so tight and so real. I love you guys.
I'm so glad we got into this, and it's such an important part of the conversation that we're trying to push and facilitate. Is exactly that. Is, you know, we need to be. Yeah, I think you said it so well. Is that if artists aren't supporting one another, how can you expect anyone else to? And there's very much a truth to that. And I think often we do, you know, and particularly back in the old days, and with those the kind of more established figures in industry, it was a lot more competitive, and it's very like scarcity mindset of like, there's no work, there's not enough money, there's nothing, and that's not necessarily the case. And there's value in building together and building more
Strong
together, you know.
yeah.
So I'm super glad we got into that in developing this very supportive, you know, community-based, support-based environment within the company, within the cast. What do you think are the key things that we need to overcome in the Cape Town creative community to get through that kind of? I think it is an older school mentality of, you know, this highly competitive, highly dog-eat-dog kind of world, and I think the companies and brands that are coming into the industry now are led by young people who think differently, who are more kind of conscious of the impact that we all have on one another. But what are the things that you guys think are the major barriers to us pushing forward, pushing through that, or things that we can solve easily, and how, you know, if you have any suggestions as to how we do that? And this is a very open question, and everyone is welcome to throw in.
This is not like specific to Cape Town, but just being in the digital age, people would much rather. So one ticket for us is what, 120? That is 80 for students. Get your sale tickets now. That is a month of a Netflix subscription, and people who don't go to theatre all the time wouldn't see the value or see that as something that they would rather do. So that's something that I think we are all trying to battle all the time, is that young people just don't go to theatre anymore. And
and I think that's why I really love this concept and wanted to be a part of it so much. Because it's true, it feels like, especially in Cape Town, the theatre scene is so old, and it feels like if you just wait 10 years, like, theatre will die with the people that die.
Theatre is alive.
You know? No, but it's true. Like, you will go to, like, high-end plays, like a play at the Artscape or something, and everybody's just old. It's old and white people.
Yeah. Actually, that's a huge thing.
And it's hard because even when we were studying, I studied at AFDA, and they kept trying to push us to like watch more theatre and watch more things, but it just wasn't coming through. Yeah. And so I feel like concepts like this and like the Baked Shakespeare makes it like so accessible to young people, and it makes them like want to be involved in something like Shakespeare, which is hundreds of years old, and people aren't really interested in it anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
And
sorry, I really want to jump on with that because that's something that I talked about a lot in the musical theatre kind of realm, is that obviously with our history as well in South Africa, it very much caters to like older white people, and they brought their kids, and then it can feel like a very exclusionary environment. And the types of stories that are told on stage are very exclusive. And that's world over. That's not just in Cape Town. That's everywhere in terms of like big theatre, Broadway, musical theatre. But what's so exciting now is that there are a lot of productions like Hamilton and others that are bringing in a whole group of people who have felt disconnected from the theatre for a long time. And I really feel like that's also what we're doing here, is we're bringing in a group of people that usually don't see maybe themselves reflected and maybe don't feel connected to Shakespeare at all in other circumstances.
Or just theatre.
Or theatre, yeah, exactly.
Oh, Sarah, go. Okay. Sorry. I think. Oh. I have a problem saying sorry. Juliette's going to spray me with a spray bottle if I don't stop. I think also the fact that we have all the plays in more accessible spots than a theatre, I think it feels very intimidating. There's this idea when it comes to theatre of like being formal and getting dressed up and having like making a night of it, when you can actually just come to a spot and enjoy the art that is being offered to you. And then just live in that moment, which I think Baked Shakespeare allows you to do on a whole other level with the weed as well. It's probably like transport you. But I think having these like small shows that, and also just a company that from like coming in, I was very nervous, very anxious, and the whole group was like, no, we've got you. And I think that blatant support that this particular cast has, I think is amazing. So yeah, I think that's more of what artists need to do, is hold each other and be accessible.
Is just like, there's a lot of stuff, especially like going to UCT, they're trying to like make this very emotional and deal with your feelings, and that's all amazing, but sometimes it's just like nice to have fun. And something about Baked Shakespeare and just about the space that we try to like facilitate for each other, like we're gonna have bad days and we're gonna have days where we shout at each other or we cry, because that's a
normal
theatre
human
process.
thing to do.
And if we aren't, it means we don't care. But we always come in and have fun, and when we're on like when everyone's on stage, I even have fun behind the lighting board, like, you know, we have fun. And I think that's something that is sorely missing from our industry right now, especially in this sort of depressing post-COVID situation, is that everyone was just sitting at home for 2 years thinking about like their relationship with their parents, and so like
I think that hit a bit close to home for too many people.
I want to be a star.
Everyone just shuddered
Turns
a bit.
into a therapy session for
but
Aaron.
like, yeah, it's just nice. It's nice to have something that you can just go to and you can just laugh, and the actors are having fun and the audience is having fun, and there isn't an expectation to try and be like, I need to have a horribly deep understanding. Half the Shakespeare words, you're not going to know what's going on in terms of the linguistics, but the actors are going to make you feel like you're part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to reiterate. I think what you're talking about, the barriers that Baked Shakespeare kind of breaks, is that in a world of instant gratification in terms of social media and what Laura was saying about Netflix and whatever, Baked Shakespeare is an hour show, maybe just over an hour, and we just focus on human connection. I mean, the audiences come in, they are free to all their vices. They come in. Our show has music, it has dance, it has audience interaction. I mean, why wouldn't you want to hold up a breadstick and scream "Fi" and have the actors come up and we interact with the audience? And it's kind of like, because I watched the first Baked Shakespeare before I was part of the company, and sitting there and feeling the joy of the actors and feeling the joy of the audience, feeling like a glimpse of being part of something bigger, of this family, of this community. And with the cannabis, it brings in this kind of indie twist of like talking about the grunge scenes in Cape Town, but it's a safe space, a theater space where everyone comes in and you see everyone is represented, and that is what makes Baked Shakespeare a human experience. And I think once you go to one show, you keep coming back for more because you're wanting that connection, you're yearning for that again, and that is what makes us beautiful.
What a man!
Well, so that's TikTok gold. That's amazing. That's getting subtitled.
Also, we just like, we're at bars a lot. We perform at bars. We have a jaw afterwards. We party with our audience, and I think that's something that is really missing. Also, they buy us shots, that's nice. But like, but you know, we party with our audience, we chat to them. The social media, we repost everything, we reply to every message. It's just connection. Yeah, like Hanya said, it's just, so it's so important for them to see that we're also humans. Like, when people come forward and smoke the bong, they're not being like Rosalind or Celia.
You are literally the first night that I got high, because we don't rehearse with cannabis at all. I mean, our rehearsal process is grueling. Every day, like, we rehearse 7 days a week, 5-6 hours, like, so because the muscle memory has to be so intense when you're on stage. So the first time you smoke marijuana is the first night on stage, and I literally came forward. I told my parents not to, but they sat in the front row. And I am so nervous. I'm like shaking with this bong. And I just hear my mom go, "Ach, sis toch, kyk hoe nervous is hy." I literally was like, "Shut up, Mom." I literally was so nervous. Like, it's such a human experience, and I think that's what makes it so lovely. Yeah.
It's because like you have your family come to watch you, and you're all like lined up, right? So you don't want to be the guy who nobody like voted for. So then they scream your name, only to realize that you've just hit 5 bongs on stage, and like it's tragic, and you're like falling all over the place, and yeah.
Your family came, you were like, "Don't vote."
Oh yeah, I told them not to, and once again they too sat in the front row. I get the bong, my grandpa's sitting right there, and I'm just like, "I'm sorry, boss." I took it, and I just forgot my line. Started doing this train motion, and I just asked my co-star, just like, "What's my line?" And everybody bursts out laughing. They want to see you mess up on stage, because that's not that they're like wanting you to do badly. It's just they just want to see you have fun. They want to have fun with you on stage. And when you go backstage and it's like the other scenes, you're like, I want to get back out there. I want to get back out there. And the thing is, just because like 2 people are smoking, the others are sober, but you feel so held. You just feel so supported by the rest of your cast because you know, like, okay, cool. If I can't do this,
everyone's been there.
Yeah.
I think what so many of you have touched on in different ways in terms of like creating a very safe, held, that's been the overwhelming sentiment of, you know, what the environment is this very like safe, held space. And I think that comes across so clearly to audiences when it's done well, that's the environment. And then the audience can get into that as well. And I mean, we've had it happen when we've done shows at our cafe where it's this very like small, intimate environment. And what I've noticed overwhelmingly is people don't relate to you giving a perfect show. No, like very few people understand that, but everyone understands getting up for like an Afrikaans oral in grade 5 and forgetting your lines, or like. And so when people see that and you just own it and laugh about it, they're like, "Oh my God, I feel so relaxed." Like, I get you on that.
It's a great way to
that's
put
a
it.
really. It's a really like understandable thing. Everyone gets that, and then if you and everyone else on stage is having fun with it, and there's an excuse for it, you know, then great. Everyone just goes, "Yeah, we're like, fuck around." It's people appreciate the human vulnerability above anything.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, I think it adds a whole other element to performing it as well, because with normal theatre, if you mess up, it's a big thing. It's like, it's something that sticks with you for a while. Here, you have the space to mess up. It's part of the fun. And I think as an actor, for me, that is really nice. It's like knowing that's going to happen and that's going to be cool, but it's also fun to just be like, "Yo, I fucked up," with like other people who are just like, "Yeah, you did, but it's cool. Have another bong and go on." So I think that's really cool.
Completely. And I just want to say, I think like the unpredictability of it is part of the draw, because every show is different. And like even my mom, when I got in, she was like, "Are you really going to do this show? Are you like," and she didn't want people to vote for me. She was like, "No one better vote for you." And at the end, she ended up coming so many times because she loved it, and every night was different. And I think that's why we have the groupies now, because it's just the most fun. And it's so safe. It's such a safe space for everyone, for the audience, for the actors, for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun, but like, let's be real. Smoke, like, I get paranoid when I walk through Canal Walk and I'm high. like, when you're on stage, and like when I smoked for the opening show of the first Baked Shakespeare we ever did, there was like 70 people in the audience. I was sitting on stage at one point. I could literally feel like my heart beating in my asshole. I was so afraid of like fucking up, but they loved it anyways. Yeah.
I think, I mean, it goes to what we've been talking about this cultural difference in age groups who are, you know, younger age groups getting into theatre, but who are people who are a bit more conscious of the safety of the spaces that they're in and wanting to be in spaces that aren't, you know, conventional and have all of these historical or, you know, traditions associated with it. It's just like, no, we want to enjoy shit, and we, you know, theatre needs to be exciting to draw in a young crowd, and if theatre doesn't change in the way that it has been expressed for so long, it's not going to do that. And then, as you said, it'll die quite soon in the way that it needs to evolve, and it needs to have things that make it more fun and more engaging and more relatable. And I think, well done to you guys on really clearly creating what's very seriously a very safe and welcoming and comfortable creative space where and I think this is the thing, creativity should be fun, and creativity should always be understanding of mistakes, because you can't be creative if you are constantly in fear of a mistake being the end of your career. You're never going to get anywhere, and that's why old creative shit stagnates, because
just to jump on that also, it's not like theatre's never changed, right? Theatre has been changing. When Shakespeare was around, not that I'm saying, but when Shakespeare was around, people were like, what the fuck is this? Yes, by the end of the career of Shakespeare, whoever we believe he was, personally I think it was Shakespeare.
Now we're getting into Shakespeare conspiracy.
No.
That's a separate podcast.
Shakespeare isn't real.
But by the end of his career, he was being performed in courts and stuff. But at the beginning, people were like, "Cure men in dresses. What the fuck? What is the story?" There are some sexy lines in these plays. Yeah. There are some raunchy lines.
Saucy. It gets saucy.
It was cutting edge for its time, and theatre's always developing, and the theatre that we're calling old now was new 30 years ago, and it was new and exciting for that generation. So we're just jumping on, it's time for a shift. We've had a huge cultural tipping point with COVID, and it's time for a new thing to happen, and people always cling on to the old things because the old things were once new and exciting. So I have all the respect for old theatre. I work in old theatre a lot of the time, but it's so exciting to see that we're and it's all over the world, just this trend of things getting more inviting and more interactive and more fun. Especially there's work that Say the Outlaw is doing, that they did a show where they were in the middle of the space and people were sitting on picnic blankets around the show. And it's just about making it you're in it. There's something about being in it. That's the only way we're ever going to compete with Netflix. It's literally the only way we're ever going to compete with Netflix and YouTube is having people in it.
There's something, I think, indescribably beautiful and impossible to replicate online about being in a room with people performing and loving it. And there's nothing to say except that, and it is just one of the truths of watching a performance live, whether it be music or theatre or dance or whatever that may be. To wrap things up, I wanted to. I know, but we have to keep it short because people's attention spans. People's attention spans. Guys, just hold. It's an hour. It's fine. You're gonna spend it binge watching some shit on Netflix anyways. Spend it on something a little bit more edifying. Have a bong and listen to the podcast. That hour will. Insert this bit at the beginning, but the hour will fly by. And you'll have time to have fun.
Easy flow.
Or it'll take forever. But get involved and get along with it. We are not officially or recommending drug use to anybody. I'm just putting that caveat in. Use legal substances responsibly as an adult with research and good decision making. Nice, we've got in our T's and C's, so we should be covered. As we close things off, firstly, I wanted to say thank you all for your time and for sharing these stories. It's been so much fun, and
thank you for having us.
Absolutely, this was a really cool one, and thank you for pushing boundaries and creating different spaces and being, creating spaces for change that you want in your industry, because that is ultimately how we push the industry forward. If there was you each have one sentence to convince someone, and it has to be a short sentence, you don't get to ramble, none of these multi-comma bullshit. A nice quick sentence to convince someone as to why they need to come to the next run of Baked Shakespeare shows, starting in, I know it's in Feb, but this is for you to...
Yeah, it starts 4th of Feb.
3rd of Feb.
3rd of Feb.
Okay, 3rd of Feb. It's from James, going back the way we did from the intros. One sentence to convince people as to why they should come to Baked Shakespeare. and you can't like repeat someone else's answer. It's a cop out. You're all actors. Improv. Go.
We're starting something groundbreaking, so be a part of it.
Comedy with weed.
The music is fire.
I promise you, you've never seen anything like it.
Netflix could never.
Where else are you gonna go where you can smoke weed, watch theater, and just have a jaw?
Basically, in short, all the world's a stage, and
We worked really hard.
That was fantastic. Those were each in isolation, I think, great reasons, and together was really cute. Thank you so much for your time and energy and for what you're doing. I hope it goes fantastically. I'm so excited for hopefully seeing it go viral around the world. I think that's such an exciting thought, and I think it very much has the legs to do so. To those of you who have been watching, thank you so much for watching this episode of the CAYACast. Make sure you like and subscribe. You can find everybody's Instagram tags, Baked Shakespeare, all the actors, Alice, it'll be down in the bio. Go follow them. Make sure you go follow Baked Shakespeare. Make sure you get a ticket or 2 or 10 for your friends to watch the next run of Baked Shakespeare shows starting on the 3rd of February. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you so much, man.
That was Steve's.